So I think it was the neighbors yesterday. They called the animal control on me about my goats. Last week has been a very rough week for me. I missed work on Thursday because my son broke a tooth at summer school and they didn't call us. The next day my goat was sick. My favorite goat, the male goat, was sick, and I took him to the vet, and then on Saturday I was told that he died. And his body ended up in the county dump. Of course, the weekend was kind of a grieving period, and then yesterday, animal control showed up. I was coming back from the feed store with my son, getting back a grain for the remaining goats, and animal control sitting out there by the gate. I freaked, kept going. I was going to go to my wife's workplace and tell her. I thought we were going to have some of our pets taken away. You know, they don't do that sort of thing very often, but I'm paranoid about it. And then I had this little note on the door that said something like, no food and water. If I don't contact the officer within 24 hours, I will be charged with animal abandonment. They had water, they had plenty of water. And I was going to the feed store to get a bag of grain. You know, I can't let them roam the yard when I'm not here. They might get eaten by dogs. Plus the one out back on the tie-out. This is the one I thought I was referring to, but he didn't even know about that one. The older one that I mentioned in my previous video. Let's talk about these two. See, they're in this old chicken shack. It's been falling apart. My father-in-law built this. My late father-in-law built it years ago. And they come to the outside part, you know, that's wired off. I can't put food and water in there. That's where they come outside to get in the sun. You know, to enjoy the outdoor. You know, when I'm not here, when I can have them out, they come out there to sun themselves. Anyway, I called the guy back. Well, first I called, and they're closed. They're closed Mondays. So I had to call the sheriff's department. And then the guy finally called me back. He's like, let me come swing by and tell you what's going on. And that's when he showed me that there's no water. And that's when I took him around front, inside the door, and I showed him I got 3 jugs of water sitting there, 2 5-gallon buckets of grain. Not full, mind you, but enough grain in there for them to eat. Because if you overfeed your goat, they die. If they have an overabundance of grain, it makes them sick. That might be what happened to Bucky, but I think he'd already been sick previously because I had a day there when he was outside. He'd just lay down, then he'd get up, then he'd go and lay down again. I don't know. I don't think I could. Talking to people in the Facebook group about goats, I don't think I could have saved them if I'd caught it earlier. But I showed the animal control officer that there was indeed water in there. He still insisted when he left that I make sure I watered them. I get in there, I take care of them twice a day. I'm out in the yard with them twice a day. Usually an hour and a half at a time. If not, later in the day for 3 hours. They get plenty of time to roam the yard. They get food and water. See, I think this stems from the day, I think it was maybe 2 days before Bucky died. His sister, the smallest one, who my son named Cute, was stranded on the garage roof for 5 hours. She wouldn't get down. I was up there with her most of the time, you know, feeding her branches. She was eating branches from the trees anyway. I'd feed her. I'd try to lure her off to that rickety little shed on the side that's falling apart. I had a can of water up there for her. She drank it. Eventually the police showed up, and after some time we tied a rope to her and they yanked her off. Injured her leg at first, but then she was fine. But, you know, Bucky later died. unexpectedly, of course. But I think these neighbors over here, every neighbor we've had, every family, there's been at least 5 to 6 different families and or single people that have lived in that house. They've all been a-holes. The first group was a Mormon family with 3 little toddler grade school age kids, and they throw chunks of concrete at my dog that I had over there. We had 2 dogs in Grandma's garden. They throw stuff at them, and then they complain about the barking. I don't want to get into details about the bad neighbors we've had over there, but this group here seemed pretty cool. But the wife, I guess, for some reason, doesn't like us. You know, never spoken to her. I don't want to assume that it was her, but it probably was, because the goats, every once in a while, are like, meh, and then the people do it back. I don't know if mockingly or pissed or what. Well, they just assume I'm not taking care of the goats. I don't know who it was that called the police when the goat was on the roof, but I was handling it. I almost had her down when they showed up. But about the animal control thing. People don't know what's going on. They don't have a right to bother you. Because apparently he came into the yard and looked and decided that there was no water. Because somebody called him. It had to be them. If not the people on the other side. That guy has a bitchy wife too. He's been mean to my sister-in-law. Really saying some snide remarks about her when she thought she wasn't around. But I take good care of my goats. They're like dogs. They're like, you know, Bucky would follow me around the yard all the time. I go out there and I play with them, and now that he's unfortunately gone, his 2 sisters are lost without him. They can't be alone when they're out in the yard. I'm not in view. They're looking for me. They're looking for me. But I explained to the officer what happened with the other goat, how he got sick. And I said it could be from overfeeding. It could be from too much access to grain and grass. See, Bucky would often hog the food. He'd headbutt the other 2 goats to get to the buckets. I have 3 buckets in there. For a while, I had 2 and didn't share, but I had 3 in there. They smashed the little bucket, the little 3-gallon bucket. They smashed it. One of the 5-gallon buckets is busted up. So now he's gone. And, you know, I take care of my goats. And it's not like it's like 11 o'clock at night and they're going, meh. It's afternoon when they call animal control. It's in the afternoon. I take good care of my goats. I let them roam the yard. I feed and water them. I'm not some jackass who's going to throw them in a shack or in a pen and just leave them. Okay? So, you know, people need to mind their own business around here. I don't tell the officer that you're out there smoking weed in front of your kids and getting drunk around your little fire pit. Again, I'm not going to just accuse them, but there's a good possibility that's who it was. Who else could it be? There's nobody, you know, there's nobody else around. We got cousins next door. They wouldn't do it. Got, I think, the veterinarian lives behind them. And the people 2 houses down, they've been nice to us too. And my sister-in-law's next door. She's not going to call. It's either them or them. Mind your own business. Don't be a busybody. Okay? Don't call the police or the dog catcher on your neighbors if you don't know what's going on. Don't just make assumptions and think you know what's going on unless you're actually here in this yard. Okay? You don't live here. You're not out here walking around with my goats. You don't go over here. You're not inside the chicken coop or you don't see the food and water. Don't just go making assumptions just because my goats are making noise in the afternoon. Noise ordinance isn't until 10:30 p.m. Mind your own gosh damn business. Okay? Have a fantastic day.